Hi, everyone. My name is Alexis Alexander. I'm a senior at Biola University, and it's my third year at the CBL Women's Summit, and I'm very excited to be here with you all and learn from our wonderful speakers. Today, I have the privilege of introducing Reagan Conrad. Reagan Conrad is the host of the comment section on the Daily Wire, where culture meets commentary with an unfiltered, laid-back perspective. A bold and outspoken voice for Gen Z conservatives, Reagan dives into the stories shaping today's world, challenging the status quo with sharp insight and a sense of humor. Reagan began her time at the Daily Wire as a content creator on the social media team, later transitioning to producer. Prior to joining the conservative media juggernaut, she worked in news and content after studying journalism. Reagan brings not just commentary, but conviction into her work, rooted in her deep love for the Lord. She resides in Nashville, Tennessee, where she's often thrifting with her husband with an espresso tonic in hand. As someone who also loves a good thrift find, I personally admire how Reagan's creativity shines through every part of her life, even through her style displayed on her social media, where she turns thrift finds into timeless fashion. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our speaker, Reagan Conrad.
Okay, so first of all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Reagan Conrad. I'm currently the host of a show at Daily Wire called The Comment Section. I'm also working on a brand new show, which I'm excited to talk about soon. What I can say about that show, and what is the question that I want to ask you all here today, it's a central question of my new show. How did we get here? It's a question that I find myself asking all of the time, especially as a conservative woman. How did we get here? Where rates of women's happiness is drastically lower than in decades past. Where mail-order chemical abortions are easy to get and very popular, where men are retreating from dating en masse, and then women are left wondering, where have all the good ones gone? Which I know some of you are probably feeling. It's tough out there, I know it. Where being a stay-at-home mom is seen with pity rather than with honor. Where it's more normal to have faith in crystal rocks than in the creator, the one who made the rocks. Where women often see success as how full their LinkedIn profile is, but not how full their home is. Now, I saw this from a recent NBC poll that went viral, and it was showing how liberal women and conservative women were very similar when asked how to define their personal levels of success. Now, conservative men put marriage and women, or not marriage to women, they put marriage and children in their top couple picks, but conservative women didn't. So how do we get here? Now, to help answer that question, I want to ask you guys a follow-up question. Who do you follow? Because I have found that it is so important to understand who you follow because it affects you way more than you might realize. Now, we've collectively followed celebrities, watched movies for decades that helped us to raise us to believe that, men are actually bad. And women should just save themselves. We don't need no man. Marriage is actually a waste of time, which my husband's over there, I would argue it's not true at all. Marriage is awesome. They say that self-care should be our highest priority, and that the career is actually much more satisfying than a husband or family ever could be. Now, and on top of that, we have social media. So it's taking far more of our time than a magazine or a movie ever did, but also way more influential, way more. Now, to highlight just how powerful I find social media, I wanted to share a personal anecdote from recently. In the last several months, as I've thought more and more seriously about motherhood, I decided to change who I was following online. I literally went out of my way to find and follow mothers who were also entrepreneurs, businesswomen, stay-at-home moms, trad wives, the whole gamut. And I was reminded again of the beauty of that calling. Now, I knew it all along, but why did I feel the need to do that? Because even though as a born and raised Christian and conservative woman, I noticed how the worldly media began to affect my worldview. The way that feminists spread fears about motherhood were successfully reinforced in what I had consumed far more than the positives were ever highlighted. And if that's how powerful of a grip it could have on someone like me, imagine what that is doing to culture at large, to women at large. But also, imagine what the opposite kind of influences could do to help save our culture. Now, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, I saw social media differently for the first time, and I'm curious if you guys ever felt that. It was almost like God gave us a glimpse into how he sees it. The veil was almost pulled back, and I was struck as I was scrolling of just how vapid and empty most of it felt. How the lip-syncing videos of TikTok dances and the celeb vacation montages, they all just felt meaningless. And I even thought about that of how much time have I wasted? Now, I once thought that the way to win culture was to blend in so well that we became cool, we were seen as cool, for instance, regarding influencers. If those of us on the right would just post the exact same way that those on the left posted, about just fashion or just lifestyle. And then once we were seen as cool, once we established how trendy we were, then we could share our beliefs, we could trickle them in, sprinkle them in, and they would be more digestible or acceptable. The reason I thought this would work is because that's what the left does all the time. Celebs can go about posting their regular lavish lifestyles to one day talking about Joe Biden or Miley Cyrus posting that infamous abortion is healthcare cake on her Instagram and see minimal ramifications, if any. Now, the key here is because that's what we've allowed to be normalized. Because while the conservatives were quieter and quieter on social media, the left never was. Therefore, their views were seen as the norm because they were the only views that were really being seen in the marketplace. Now, what happened last month, obviously it shattered a lot of things. But regarding social media, it shattered my theory about how to best and effectively reach people on social media. And the realization of just how wrong I was about that idea of maybe if I just sprinkle it in, it'll be more effective. It hit me like a ton of bricks. When I saw the masses of people begin to post about Charlie, they were it was the majority of people. There were so many of them. Though we are the majority, we're often silent, but it's still the majority. There are way more of us than people think. I hope you guys feel that right now, like looking around, there's a lot of you guys, and there's way more out there. What if the right was simply as vocal as the left? If we believe something, we simply say it. Then we go about our regular content or our regular day. We can be the ones to push back against the leftist groupthink if we are willing to just say things. Because guess what? The whole group doesn't actually think that. We know that. We know that to be true. Eventually, audiences can't unfollow everybody, right? The same way that I still follow creators who I may disagree with politically, it could happen in reverse as well. Now just think if all the people who were actually conservatives felt confident enough to openly say it. Brands, let's say for influencers, they couldn't avoid every single influencer who shared those beliefs because, again, they can't avoid the majority of the country. And rather than just being quiet to avoid any subtle offenses, if we were just as blunt, as transparent as those on the left are, I think we will see a massive shift. Frankly, I think we're already seeing it. But if we continue to tamp down on our beliefs, we will just keep going on the path that we've been on for decades. Now, I'm not just talking about sharing our political views openly. I'm talking about your views on life, your views on motherhood, and most importantly, our faith. Because what stood out to me the most over the last several weeks was and within the social shift that we witnessed, was a reminder of just how important it is to talk about what's most important to us. And for me, that's my faith in Jesus. Now, we witnessed a boldness of the gospel over the last month that there was no sugarcoating. There was no glamour. In fact, it was shrouded in death and heartbreak. And yet thousands, if not tens of thousands, came to the Lord. He doesn't need to be repackaged or rebranded or hidden in a carousel of posts to be more easily digestible. Your testimony, the truth about who he is sufficient. It draws those in who are searching, and we know that there's a nation of people who are hungry for it. So don't be afraid to share things on your heart when you feel called to do so. Now, it's those kind of posts that are so important because they're the most important kinds of posts we can make. Because what we talk about matters. What we post about matters. How we spend our very limited time on this earth matters, guys. Or at least it should. Now, am I saying suddenly that all normal posts on social media are bad? No. You're still going to see me posting random thrift finds or things from social media that I find interesting. But what I think is important to realize and to think about is that if my followers can't see who influences my peace, my joy, my hope, then I'm missing the entire point. If they don't know that it's coming from Jesus, I'm failing at my job. just like how my friends in my real life should be able to see the fruit of his Spirit lived out every day in my life. And if they can't see that online, again, then what's the point? Now, the average American spends apparently 3.5 hours on social media a day, which frankly, with our generation, it's much higher than that. We can check our own screen times. I bet it's higher. While the average American, only 30% of them attend a church, and that's only once every 3 weeks. So we have to meet our generation where we're at, and we're online, obviously. So with that, what influence do you guys want to have? We have a culture of women who are hurting, whether or not they acknowledge it, whether or not they know it. So how can we help? Well, first, I think we have to look to see who do we follow so that we can help those who follow us. Now, I don't mean me following the mommy influencers back when I was talking about motherhood. For this mission, we need to learn about the most influential man of all time, because if he becomes our top followed person, if he becomes a person that we know way too many details about his life that frankly is just weird. When I talk about certain influencers, I'm like, I know way too much about their life. If that's how it is with Jesus, man, we would be such good stewards of our time to help save this nation. Because soul change is synonymous with saving a nation, this nation. And our behavior, both digitally and in real life, can help guide our fellow women on a safer and beautiful path for their own lives. Now, I've heard Alex said this as well, but guys, we were created for such a time as this. How cool is that? But even on the scary days, even on the good ones, and what an honor it is to be selected to live in this time. Now, I used to joke and say, oh, well, I was born in the wrong decade. I like vintage cars. I like old jeans. I like the Coca-Cola bottles that come in the glass instead of the can. I wasn't born in the wrong decade. Those values that I love don't have to be old school because they're actually timeless. And I think we can bring them back. For instance, homeschooling can be cool again. I'm already seeing that happening. Frankly, in my own life, I didn't used to think it was cool, I'll be honest. I wasn't. Public school the whole way through. I think it's awesome now. I want all my babies to be homeschooled. Cooking for your husband doesn't have to be seen as some negative connotation. Now, I know my husband's laughing because I never cook for him. Sorry, love. Not yet, but I will. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing, okay? He does all the cooking. He's really good at it. I even think about the milk glass jars that are becoming back in style, right? To go down to your local farm and get a glass jar. That's cool. That wasn't a thing recently. It's coming back. That's why I think Coca-Cola will soon bring those cool Coke bottles back. But regardless, being classy and modest can be attractive and fashionable. Having lots of babies can be a sign of honor and respect. Because those principles don't come from some idyllic version of the 1950s life from some far-off land. They come from an era that is much more timeless, the Bible. So we know what book to follow. We know the man in the book who defines the book and our faith. But as a young woman in a culture that is so far from the truths that we see in the Bible, who else can we look to there to help us define womanhood specifically? The Proverbs 31 woman. Anyone heard of her? Yeah? Yep, she's a great one, okay? I want to talk a little bit about her because I think she is the best influencer that we've got in there to really look at. She's the kind of woman I actually want to learn to follow, the kind of influencer we need. And the beauty is, all of us can be her. We can live out her qualities even in 2025, and hopefully then encourage other women to do the same. I'm old-fashioned with my notes and not having it on a phone. Now, I think that there are a lot of women who are disenfranchised when they hear the word the Bible, because they think as a woman, it's full of misogynistic, patriarchal stereotypes that they want no part of. The thing is, as always, that is a cultural feminist lie. Now, I want to dive into our girl for a moment, just to kind of show you that. Now, she's also called the wife of noble character, though I don't think you need to be married to learn from her. First of all, she starts off by instilling confidence in those around her. She brings them good, not harm. And newsflash to the feminists, she works. A lot. Eagerly. In fact, she's described as eagerly wanting to work. Multiple times, she's described as the different ways in which she works, whether it's with her hands, with her strong arms that she gets from manual labor, her profitable works that keeps her up late into the night hustling and working. I mean, she even goes so far as to buy land and then plant an entire vineyard on it. So the girl's hustling, okay? It's a good thing. Now, does that mean that all of our work has to be associated with a paycheck? No. But for some, it might. It's not that we should be pushing a generation of women away from working as the only way that they can be good Christian conservative women. We simply need to make sure that women have the proper order of prioritization when it comes to their lives and to their homes. Because if we as women are putting our eggs on ice for a decade to make sure that our career is thriving, then we're failing in the we have a prioritization problem. Now, because for this noble wife, working is just one of the many things that she loves to do. She also sacrifices a lot. She has children and a husband that respects her. She takes care of her servants, and she opens her arms to the poor. Now, liberals often love to act like they're the only ones who truly care about the poor. Although I would argue that a lot of their policies do the exact opposite, and they are full of false compassion. We, though, should be the hands and the feet of Jesus in our own communities. So get involved with the local pregnancy center, with a local shelter. Find ways to fill your time with good that helps your immediate communities. Now, this is another one that I love, that she says, she's described as saying that she doesn't eat the bread of idleness. So she doesn't just allow laziness to take over from the tasks that she was called to do. I also love this one. She's well-dressed. She's described as being clothed in fine linen and also clothed with strength and dignity. So, AKA, she dresses to impress. She doesn't show up to work in sweatpants and then demand to be taken seriously, nor does she show up to the bar with a bralette and a miniskirt and demand to be respected by men. She dresses like the Ruby that she knows she is, the valuable Ruby that she knows she is, because she also knows, and many of you probably know this verse, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Now, that is only a sampling of that chapter, which I love so much, but what a woman, right? I mean, what an influencer. I don't know about you, but I sure would like to be more like her, especially in a culture that's so out of whack and doesn't often emulate her well. So let's try hard not to follow culture, but instead lead by example to have culture follow us. Let's be the trendsetters in the truest sense of the word, and by doing so, that means we have to be willing to lead the way in fashion and ideas. For instance, I mentioned class and modesty earlier. Do you think that we can make that cool again? I'm curious, do you guys think that? Yeah? Okay. See, that's what I like to hear. Okay, good. Now, I was debating this recently, okay, with some fellow conservatives, actually. Now, I was specifically discussing the Sydney Sweeney ad that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Specifically with this one, it was the shot that came down on her chest while she was talking about her jeans, okay? And I had said, hey, maybe that's not a huge win for conservative women at large. And I was scoffed at over that idea. Because apparently, if I act and think like that, then we will never actually be able to win culture. We have to blend in, like, that's not cool. I disagree, though. Because we have to look different to be trendsetters. And as Christians, we are called to be different. If we blend in, frankly, we're doing something wrong. If we simply please people, we please the world, we're doing something wrong. Now, that's not to say that you should be mean suddenly. You should be filled with grace and kindness in class. But don't allow kindness to be weakness. Be meek, not weak. Demonstrate strength, but under control. Be slow to speak, but full of wisdom when you choose to do so. Now, what I find most fun about the conservative movement is knowing that we are truly on the desirable side. Even if culture doesn't always think that, we're on the winning side. Because we're on the side that keeps the country moving forward. I mean, heck, we're the side that actually keeps the country, like, literally moving. I mean, they just were roasting Taylor Swift because she even mentioned she wanted to have kids, and they were like, how dare she? I mean, a wild take from the left, but again, it's a take they keep choosing to make. We are the side that supports traditions, ones that have gone on way before even America, since the world began. We can serve what is good and true and pure. And so I do believe that there's a craving for that. Because we know that truth isn't always easy to say, but it wins in the end. So if we believe that there's a desire for it, we believe that we can reverse course, which I believe we can. We see it happening even within the media. What does that mean for us? What can we do now? Especially for those of you out there, God bless you for doing this, but for those of you who don't have social media, that's frankly awesome. And you're like, what do you mean I don't even have followers? It doesn't matter. You're still an influencer. All of you are. The most important kind, frankly. Because no matter your social media numbers, or if you have social media at all, you still are. The people that I am truly influenced by the most are the ones who know my middle name and know that horribly awkward phase I had in 7th grade. They're the ones that truly know me, and they're the ones that even I got to witness their transformations themselves, who I saw go from loving AOC to suddenly having a bunch of babies and talking about Trump way more than me. And their lives, their testimonies are so inspiring to me because of that closeness. They are my influencers. So we need to be that for others. Now, admittedly, I've had a bit of a challenging year. And so although I stepped into a public-facing role this year, I pulled inward on social media at that exact same time. Though I love social media heavily, I enjoy it. It's what I do for a living for many years. But over the last month, I have felt the pull to truly re-engage because this movement needs women. That's why it's so good to see all your faces. Like, yes, we need all of you guys. And then 1,000 times more. There's so much responsibility in that, but I think we can handle it. I really do. Now, it's going to take all of us. And so this is as much an accountability moment for myself, for you guys to hold me to this, as much as I hope that this is encouragement for you all to pick up your torch and to do the same. We need every one of you. We've got a big mission to fulfill. I know you guys can feel it, but not to fear, because we are truly the empowered women here, born for such a time as this. Thank you, guys. I love the music. You're welcome.
For speaking. I'd just like to say your fresh and especially Christian take from the perspective of social media is so important to us living in this new technological world. So thank you so much. We have time for some questions, so please, if you have any questions, line up with my friend by the door and you'll step up, say your name, your school, and please keep your question in the form of a question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Price, and I go to Grand Canyon University.
Amazing.
I just want to thank you so much for being so bold about your faith. And I know it's a simple question, but I'd love to know your favorite passage of scripture and any worship songs you've been listening to recently.
Ooh, yes. Okay, so I just got on the Forrest Frank train recently. I know many of you have probably already been on it. I love his music. I love Brandon Lake. Gratitude is my favorite song ever, so that's kind of my go-to, always listen. I would say favorite piece of scripture, Philippians 4:8. Now, I wish I had my Bible in hand. I even thought, like, what if I'm asked? I should memorize this. I'm the worst at memorization. I don't know if you guys, it's been my favorite since I was literally in 3rd grade, and I still can't say it. It's the one about whatever is lovely, whatever is pure, whatever is something, think about such things. That's my favorite verse, though I can't say it offhand. But yeah, I love that piece of scripture. I mean, a lot of Philippians. Just started reading John, so I'm going back through the Gospels, and I think that's, especially right now, I want to equip myself with the knowledge of the Gospels better than I've ever known it before. And I think that's really important for all of us to do, especially if we want to be vocal in our faith, like even knowing verses so that you can just say them. I think that's just so important. And again, it's like what we saw Charlie do, right? He was so good at that. And now that he's gone, it's like, we need to pick up our Bibles and just keep them open. So that's what I would encourage all of you guys. But yeah, those are my favorites right now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jamie, and I also attend Grand Canyon University.
Amazing.
And my question is for those of us that want to avoid doom scrolling and getting sucked into social media. Yeah. What is your advice for those of us that also enjoy working in media and marketing, but don't want to just constantly be sucked in?
Yes, trust me, that is my problem, as I know my husband can attest, because I'm just online all day, every day, and it's not good for you overall. I would say find your boundaries and set them, and then stick to them. So let's say it's the weekend. If you have to work during the week, you have to be on social media during the week. You take Saturday or Sunday and you log off, put it away. That's where you get the most my mind can be cleared, and that's so important. So I would say try to find those boundaries, whatever that looks like in your own life, because doom scrolling is very easy, as I'm sure all of us are very aware. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, that is a part of our life right now. And I just think it's so important to talk to people in real life also, make a phone call, even though I don't know about you guys, sometimes I hate phone calls. I send a voice memo and said, make the phone call, talk to people in real life, and yeah, find those limits and then set them for yourself. Thank you so much. Hi.
Hi, Reagan. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Anastasia. I'm a former CBL intern, and I attend Thomas More College in New Hampshire.
Amazing.
So you spoke a lot about modesty and dressing well, and those terms usually get a bad rep because they're kind of associated with limitations, specifically, I need to cover up for men. Yep. And I would just love to hear you speak a little bit about what the heart of modesty is and dressing well and how it's not actually a limitation.
Yeah.
So whatever your thoughts are.
Such a good question. I think it's something, too, that in the last couple of years I've been really trying to understand better, because I realized I was looking for what are ways that we can set ourselves apart in culture. And one of them is the simple act of how we dress. Now, I don't think it has to be some limitation of I'm doing this for someone else in terms of I don't know, some man or something. I'm doing it obviously because there's a biblical element to there, that there is, it's not, it doesn't, there's nothing in the Bible that says, oh, this is exactly how you have to dress and you have to do, but it's the intention behind it and the heart behind it that I think is a very important thing to be aware of, even just as you're dressing yourself or as you want to go in the future, because I think it's very important. It's like the intention is a very big part of that. But yeah, I think that it's just the idea of treating your body like a sacred thing that it is, because you know that you're made in the image of God. So how do you want to dress to make sure that you're best reflecting that, especially if you're then going to go and talk about Jesus, right? You don't want to be like, everything's hanging out and you're like, okay, and it doesn't really work. So I think that's been a conviction of mine recently of what can I wear that's a little bit different? It's still cute. Again, I think that's the biggest thing. I used to think like, they say modesty, it's like, oh, it's ugly, the dresses are to the floor, and you just look very old-fashioned. I don't think that has to be like that. And so I really want to encourage a movement of women to get creative in how else can we dress to again, stand apart, but not be to the point that we just feel uncomfortable ourselves. And I think there's a balance there that I'm actively trying to find, and so I'd encourage you guys to look for that as well. Thank you.
Hello, Reagan.
Hello.
My name is Pepper, and I'm from Grand Canyon Education.
Amazing.
I'm such a big fan of yours. One of the things I love so much on your show is that you are so grounded and you shine your light so well.
Thank you.
And my question for you is, I'm so passionate about my beliefs, my faith, and what I believe as a conservative. And I want to shine my light more on campus or wherever I am, but I don't want to do it on social media. So how can I do that better?
Well, I guess one of my first questions would be, if you have a community of women, are there ways that you can connect with them in person to maybe do a Bible study or to do different things that you can collectively bring women in that way? Because I think that's a big thing right now with women need community so much, even ones that don't realize that they need it. And so how can we develop that on places like a college campus? So I would encourage you, immediately I was going to be like, you could post on social media to ask for it. Post about it on the bulletin boards because those still exist, and try to get women to come together and have a Bible study and create that community that way, because I've seen so many times very quickly how that turns into a fire and spreads nationwide, campus-wide, to get more and more women to come into that. So again, I always come back to people first and how can you bring more specific people into your life, because I think that's the best type of influencer you can be, is just simply being with people and encouraging their faith through that. So start a Bible study, start a group, bring women in. We're hungry for it. We're hungry for community. So that would be my piece of advice. Thank you so much. So many Grand Canyon people. This is cool.
Right. Well, hello, my name is Lucy. I'm from Skagit Valley College in Seattle, Washington. My question is actually centered around that idea that you touched on a little bit about being the voice in maybe circles that aren't super conservative, and being able to do that in a way that's winning and winsome for the culture. I just wondered if you could speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's scary to do so a lot of times. I found that when I was in high school and I didn't have groups like this. In college, I didn't have groups like this, and I regret not looking for it because maybe it exists. I think it did exist. But I think that it can be very hard to do. But again, I think it's leading by example. If you are able to adopt certain things in your own life, that then you can help, again, reflect your values out in the real world, because it's very easy to say one thing when you're doing the exact other. People are not gonna agree, they're not gonna see that. But I think if you're able to live that out and then also be communicating, again, with people face to face and talking about it, it breaks down so many barriers that I think a lot of people hold, especially when you see it on social media. Like that person would never change their mind. They actually would. Like there is that ability, and that's what's so cool about it. It's like conversation actually goes a long way. So living a good example in your own life and then having those conversations, I think, is key. Thank you so much.
Hey, Reagan. Thank you
Hello.
so much for speaking here today. My name is Brooklyn. I go to Union University, and I appreciate you kind of defining the conservatism through like a biblical lens instead of like an idealized like 1950s like sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you've also faced backlash with like the Sydney Sweeney thing, as you were talking about.
Yeah.
How do you defend like Christian values in the conservative space as well?
That's a great question, and frankly, one that even that backlash, that little moment that I had with that, kind of woke me up to like, oh yeah, because again, just because you're conservative doesn't make you Christian, vice versa. But I think that those of us who are both Christian and conservative, our Christian values dictate our conservatism. At least they do for me. Like that, my beliefs, because those are more important. My Christian beliefs are the most important, but obviously then they dictate where I find in culture reflects those beliefs most, which right now is in the conservative movement, and hope it continues to stay that way. It will. But I think that, being able to, it's tricky because it's kind of two things that are overlapping. But I think it is just important to continue to have grounded in that truth. And as you, it's like, if you continue to blend the truth that you know biblically with the truth that you're seeing culturally, and not allowing people to like ostracize you just because you are a Christian, you know what I mean? I think that sometimes you say like a Christian, like, well, I don't believe that, and then it's like affects the ability to talk about your beliefs, Christian or conservative. I think that there's a good way to kind of blend them both, but not allowing one to like take over the other in a sense. But specifically with truth, it's like you have to go back to what are the truths that you know that are unshakable, and really cling to those when you're having those discussions and having that dynamic, because it is tricky. I think Allie Beth Stuckey, she says it best. She's incredible. But she always says that, politics matter because people matter. And that's such a good way of saying that, we are involved in politics because it does matter for people and their well-being. And again, to spread the truth, because we're seeing when we don't do that what happens, and how the truth gets so distorted. So I think it is important for Christians to be a part of the movement. But again, I think it matters because people matter. And so I love that quote from Allie, and I think she does a great job of doing that as well. But that's what I would encourage you to do. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Elena. I go to Wheaton College. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Of course.
I really appreciated what you were saying about kind of meeting our generation where they're at, which is on social media.
Yeah.
What are kind of some of your tips or advice for those of us who might feel called to that, but are kind of like, oh, I'm starting at ground zero. What do I do?
Ooh,
what would your advice be for that?
Okay, let's see. Man, social media is so fun, right? Okay, so I would say, number one, and I'm learning this too right now, authenticity is key, right? So the only way that you're going to be able to build community and people that then trust you on the important topics that you want to talk about is to be authentic and to be yourself. So that just on whatever social media platform you're talking, that's key. My immediate brain went to be like, okay, and these analytics and these things, so that's the world I come from. But I'm not going to go there because that's naturally will grow with time and things that you can do. But be bold, post a lot. As soon as you have an idea, and again, I'm preaching to the choir to myself by saying this, but when you have an idea, just post about it, talk about it. And I think that the more that you do that and also engage with other people, other creators in the space who are doing that, and try to build that community online as well, I think that'll help you kind of gain traction and also feel more bold in your beliefs to then continue to talk about it. So yeah, plug in as much as possible, find groups, and just keep posting. It's all about I think we really just need to flood algorithms with this kind of content, right? I mean, again, that's what we saw a couple weeks ago. Everyone is suddenly just talking about the gospel, and it was like, what? That's why I loved being on social media. I was like, this is amazing. Now it's kind of dissipated. The algorithms have gone back. But what I want to try to counteract is let's keep that going. Let's keep that pressure on because it affected so many people in a positive way. So that would be my encouragement for you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Grace Jarvis. I go to Arizona Christian University. And my question is also about social media. Yeah. Social media can be a very dark place and very quickly. So my question is simply, what would you advise with social media in how to avoid, not necessarily avoid, but keep away from maybe the darker side of social media? What would you say about that?
Yeah, well, I'm sure some of you know it is a dark place, and I experienced that very heavily this year. What I would say most importantly is learn where your identity is rooted and then cling to that. Because if you don't, if you think that what the comments say are accurate about you, you will not sustain on social media. So the biggest thing that I really clung to personally this year, and it was immensely effective, is to remember where your identity is found. So my identity is found in Christ. I am what he says I am and not what the world says that I am. And so if you hold true to that and cling to it, then over time, even the comments that you might get when you're posting about certain things, they'll roll off. They won't, because you know they're not true. So again, knowing the truth and just praying about that and clinging to that, I'm telling you, it makes all the difference. Trust me, again, from experience, cling to that. And then you will be honestly freed, and then you'll even feel more confident to keep talking and keep posting.